Thank you for joining us here again for this wonderful webinar. Today we will be speaking with Albrecht Wolfmeyer of ProVeg International, actually of ProVeg Incubator. He is in charge of ProVeg Incubator. How are you, Albrecht?
Hi, Roberto. Good to meet you. Thanks for having me. I'm fine.
Great. It's great to have you here. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'd like to know a little bit about yourself and about ProVeg Incubator. So can you go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself and how you ended up with ProVeg Incubator? Go ahead.
Sure. Yes, sure. I joined ProVeg International, actually, which is the organization that launched the incubator in 2018. That's when I joined. I come from a diverse background, actually. I had been working after my studies in Berlin and Paris and Toronto. I studied social sciences in the first place, and then I became a journalist. I worked in communications, in marketing. I joined a big consulting firm and did that for a while. And then I wanted to switch from the for-profit side to the not-for-profit side. So I joined an association that was focusing on education. I studied as a side thing, not-for-profit management, because I was really interested in what makes the difference between regular, business and a charitable organization. So I got into that field. I switched sides, if you like, and then I got to know ProVeg that was kicked off in 2017, going back as under different names as a food awareness organization. And ProVeg International is a really interesting organization because it does many things on the consumer side. If you want, like reports, education, information, campaigns, but also on the corporate side, which is where I am active in with a startup incubator, the ProVeg Incubator. It's a signature initiative by ProVeg International, that global organization, and we work with startups. We connect them to corporates, we invest in them, we run a program for them, we do mentoring, coaching, and all of these things. And I joined in 2018, and we built this from scratch, like a curriculum, a small team, and we built it out into something like that is now, not only we were the first ones, but one of the leading programs for startups from all over the world, from China to Mexico, and of course from many European countries that want to build startups in the alternative protein space, in the new food space, everything that is aiming at taking out animals out of the food equation, that want to replace it with new ingredients, new solutions to make the food system more sustainable.
Excellent. So how exactly is ProVeg Incubator different from the general organization? How exactly would you define like the difference there?
Well, ProVeg International is an organization that has offices in 10 countries actually around the world. We are active in South Africa and China, and a couple of European countries, including Spain, Germany, and the Netherlands, and in the US, where our mother entity is based. And ProVeg International is like this parent company. And we do, as I said, many different things on the policy side, campaigning side, and also on the corporate side. We help food producers, we consult retailers, we work with investors, we are investing ourselves. In the incubator, in 2018, when we started, we were really like the first ones that would fully only focus on this topic of alternative protein. That is anything that is focusing on taking animals out of the value chain and replacing it with something more sustainable, because the current food system as it is set up is not really like set up for the future, in our opinion. It has to be transformed into a more sustainable system, and that's why you need more solutions. So from the corporate side, but also from the startup side, where a lot of innovation is coming from in recent years. And the incubator is different in that sense that we are really at the threshold of working for profit and not for profit together. We take mentors from, say, food producers, also from the leading retailers and wholesalers in the world, and we connect them with the startups so they can collaborate, so they can scale, and so they can launch their products and go to market.
Okay, great. Okay, I heard you a little choppy there. Not sure if you can hear me there. Can you hear me okay?
Now we can hear you okay. I think we got some delay
Uh-oh.
between Berlin and Bogota, but that happens.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. So if you can hear me, is ProVeg only in Europe, or is ProVeg also have a presence in other countries?
Yeah, as I said, ProVeg is a global organization. We have chapters in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Poland, in the UK, in a couple of European countries, in South Africa, in the US, and in China even. And we're expanding now into Mexico. We're looking into opening chapters in Southeast Asia and even in other regions. So it's around 220 people all over the world, and where we don't have an office or a chapter ourselves, we collaborate with organizations, with like-minded organizations and partners. So there are lots of possibilities, but we want to be active and present or represented with partners anywhere where we can have an impact on the food system.
Okay. Okay. Oh wow. So ProVeg is all over the world.
It is indeed,
Did
yeah.
not know that. Not sure if you're hearing me. I'm hearing, yeah, everywhere. Okay. And how is, I'm curious, how is ProVeg different from other organizations that are similar? For example, like the Good Food Institute. How would you differentiate the two? I was always curious about the exact difference between both organizations.
You know, the mission of transforming the food system, which is something that the GFI is also working on, is huge. If you think about food as a problem and also as a topic where you can tackle many different problems of our world at the moment, which are health, environmental issues, climate change, and of course animal welfare, also justice and distribution. If you think about the more than 8 billion people that are now on this planet, that we have to provide with protein, calories, food in general. As it is currently, this is not very sustainable, so we want to change this. And the Good Food Institute has a very strong focus on science, on R&D, on the tech side of things, which is something we do as well. But they are really like, this is their USP and their 100% sharp focus. We, on the other hand, do many things on the consumer side. That is, we inform the public, we do research,
Okay.
service, market studies, and we have also this corporate side where we do a lot of collaborations with the industry, and for example, also invest in startups with the ProVeg Incubator. So it's a diverse range of areas where
Yeah.
we are active, and it has a B2C side, if you like, and a B2B angle as well.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so ProVeg has a lot of different angles. I see. Yeah, so the Good Food Institute basically works from top to bottom, I guess, and ProVeg also works, yeah, with consumers, because I understand that the Good Food Institute only works with, yeah, trying to influence companies and governments, while ProVeg also
Yeah,
works
there's a
with
policy,
consumers, basically in a
institutional,
nutshell.
and,
Correct?
and corporate approach, which is great because that's what's needed. That's what we're doing as well. But we're coming also from other angles to contribute to the mission. You know, the mission of ProVeg is 50 by 40. In a nutshell, this means to reduce the consumption of animal products by 50% by the year 2040. It's a big mission, and lots of other players like the Good Food Institute, but also environmental organization, animal welfare organization, associations of the plant-based food industry, and so on. They're all working on this together, and everybody can contribute different things in different areas, and that's why it's great and it's needed as well.
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, good. So I was always curious about how exactly the two are different. There's a lot of similarities, but there's different. All right,
And
that's
we
great.
also
That's
collaborate
great. So I
well
guess you can
because
both complement each other to help.
that's what we're doing. We're joining forces with them, and we've been working with them ever since we started this.
That's great. That's great. That's excellent. Okay. Yeah, because somebody had told me once, they're like, "Oh, are they competitors?" I'm like, "No, they're not competitors. They're organizations with the same mission. So there's
Really
obviously
good
no
partners.
competition there. It's more of a yeah, definite. Okay, great. There's been a lot of rumors and all these things, articles about the plant-based sector, which is going down. There isn't so much that some companies aren't doing so well. That basically that the plant-based sector is imploding, which I don't think that's really the case. But I would like to hear your take. What are your thoughts on that? About people who are, who believe that the plant-based sector is imploding. I don't know. What's your take
Hmm.
on that? On
Yeah,
those
it sort of has become
recommendations.
a fashion recently for some people on social media or in the media in general to say that the plant-based industry or the alternative protein industry is going down. It was only a hype, a trend for a few years, and that clearly is not going to stay. I'd rather say we are currently
Yeah,
at the first down cycle. This is an economic downturn that affects the whole food and the whole tech and the whole industry actually in the world for different reasons. There are circumstances like the war in Ukraine, inflation, and other crises in the world that affect, of course, also our industry, but it's a much younger industry than the
yeah,
others. So it has been there only for a few years, and now we see the first down
yeah,
cycle, and it's going to take a while. It's true. It's at the moment it's very difficult. It's especially challenging for some companies, for startups to raise money because investors are more cautious, after having seen losses in valuations and in investments in other areas. And after a few years where each year it had been going up, in a very steep way, very fast, growth rates were incredible. Now we're seeing certainly a consolidation. We're also going to see some players probably disappear. Some startups are not going to make it. That's just a fact because it's going to be very hard to close fundraising rounds. But I'm sure that the strong ones and the resilient ones can sustain, and they will be on the game, and they will be part of this transformation in a year or two after this crisis. Two companies are a bit in the spotlight because when this was at the very peak, they went public. That is Beyond Meat and Oatly. And they are two great brands, and they have achieved amazing innovations. But of course, they are now in the spotlight. And in terms of like what analysts say, what investors say, they're not on the cash side. They're not performing sufficiently well yet. Okay, that's fair. But first of all, they are also not like they haven't been around for decades or centuries. They are just getting started in a way, and at the same time, these two are not representing like the whole industry. So I would not say that the whole industry um, is going down because we are seeing some performance problems of those that had their IPO.
yeah. Okay, okay. I see. I see. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's. I mean, it happens. It's kind of a cycle, and then and we'll see what happens. I've heard. I forgot the name of the economic cycle when it goes. When something starts really fast, and then, when it goes too quickly, and then it kind of explodes and goes down. But then eventually, it can start to. It can start to
Yeah,
grow
we're
again
seeing a consolidation. There
and
were a
become
few years
a major
with
factor.
we had seen definitely a bit of an inflation in valuations as well. There was maybe a bit too much optimism into the space. At the same time, given compared to other industries, what's being invested in the alternative protein industry so far is not a lot. We're talking about a few billions, 12 billions or so in the last decade. So it's going to much more is needed, and it's going to be invested. It just takes some time. Now we're currently seeing a down cycle, and it's going to take a few more. Yeah, no one can say if it's a year or two, but it's gonna stay. I'm super
Yeah.
optimistic that this is going to stay, and it's going to be a long term trend because consumers are asking for it. Retailers are seeing this and are asking it for their clients. Investors are overall still very much interested because there's a real opportunity. And
Yeah.
food is such a big topic. Food is such a big market, and the plant-based industry is still very young. So I don't see that this means that we are seeing the end. We're rather seeing part of the beginning still. Roberto?
Yeah. I see. I see. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I'm having some. Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, yeah, exactly. It's a young industry. It's not as powerful as the meat and dairy industries, which have been around for many decades. With they have their lobby groups, they get subsidies. So obviously, we don't have that so much in the plant-based industry yet. But of course, obviously, yeah, the bigger, the stronger, the better it will do. In the U.S., an interesting topic which we've spoken a lot about in past webinars is the cultivated meat. It's getting approved in the United States. It'll probably be on the market, I'm imagining, by next year. I don't know if how familiar you are with it or how much you've worked in the cultivated, or yeah, how with ProVeg Incubator. Have you been doing anything with the with the cultivated meat industry? Have you worked with cultivated meat companies as well, say in Europe or in the US?
Yes, ProVeg International overall, to make this clear, is embracing this part of the innovation because we think that plant-based alone or other approaches can only go so far. So cellular agriculture will be part of the future solution of transforming this industry and of replacing conventional meat and dairy. So I would say that cellular agriculture just takes longer. And of course, currently, with the current downturn and the current slowdown in investments, it's going to have a harder time because it needs a lot of investment. It needs a lot of money to get things rolling, and it takes more time to scale this. And we're not there yet compared to the plant-based solutions that we have seen getting launched and scaled in the last couple of years. So CELIC will just take more time, but it will definitely be part of the future landscape of food. We just have to think in terms of decades here, rather than in terms of years. Because when we see this, and it's great and exciting to see that in some countries, first to Singapore, now probably in the US, we're going to see the first
Yeah.
the first products approved and launched on the market. It's going to be small scale, of course. It's going to be only food service. It's going to take a
Yeah.
while to have to see these widely available and at reasonable prices. But symbolically, it's very important that it's starting
Yeah.
now, and we just need to be patient and give the companies, the corporates, and the startups the time to develop this further, and then be able to scale it and bring it to the mass markets in a bit longer time. I would say, like we're talking about, yes, indeed, a decade or so until we're going to see mass market solutions in this area. And
Yeah,
yes,
so it'll
since you
take a
asked
while, so
about
we
it,
have to be patient.
yes, since you asked about it, ProVeg has worked and the incubator has worked with startups in that area. For example, in the very first cohort, we have this cohort system of supporting 2 groups of startups per year. And in the very first one in 2018, we had a company from India, actually, which was the first cellular agriculture company, cultivated meat company from India. They're still out there. They're still actually growing. And this was part of our first cohort. And one of the last ones, we had a company called Cultimate Foods. They're working on cultivated fat. So I think these solutions are also becoming more interesting, where you have functional ingredients that can be used to improve hybrid products, partly plant-based, partly cultivated, that could go to the market faster and make plant-based innovation, plant-based products more acceptable and just better in perspective, in the consumer's perspective, and also price wise.
Okay. Okay, great. All right. Interesting. I'm curious. So, what's in store for the future of ProVeg? Are there any other plans, or to expand into other areas, or to open any new areas of the organization?
Absolutely, yeah. ProVeg has been also, like the space, been growing since 2017. We've expanded into new countries, and the ProVeg Incubator, the program is a global program. So as I said, we have been working with startups from, I think, more than 40 countries. So and now what we're doing is we're
Okay.
spinning off with partners in Mexico now. We want to get a higher reach in Latin America. That's why we're working with a partner in Mexico to see more startups and to bring more startups into the program from that continent. And the same thing will probably happen in Southeast Asia because we see there's a huge, ecosystem already, and we need to get more visibility, more reach there because the impact case is clear in those countries. And yeah, there's regions like the Middle East that could become more relevant, even in Africa, Southern Africa, but also other regions in Africa. We just launched with a partner a new chapter in Nigeria because it's such a huge country. It's going to be one of the game changers when it comes to population and influence and impact in Africa. So yeah, it's a constant process, and we're constantly pondering where we could have the highest impact and should start initiatives or support them.
Okay, excellent. Oh, so there's a lot going on there. So there's definitely a lot going on a global scale. So that sounds pretty exciting. Right, great.
It is
So,
indeed.
do you have is there anything you'd like to tell our viewers? We're having a little bit of an issue. Okay, sorry. So last question. I hope you're hearing me. I'm not sure if I'm frozen or not. Is there anything you'd like to tell our viewers from the plant, who are in the plant-based business already, or just in the food industry, who are considering entering the plant-based space? Is there any message you'd like to tell those who are watching for those in the food industry in general who are watching right now?
Yes, definitely. I want to really make it clear that the opportunity is so huge, as is the need for this transformation. So it's not like something that is going away or that can be overlooked because it's not needed. It is definitely needed to make this food system more sustainable and more just and more environmentally friendly. So we have to find better solutions than the ones we're having now. And this is interesting for investors. This is interesting for food producers that want to explore or introduce new categories or want to build out their plant-based selection or their plant-based category if they have already something on the market. This is interesting for ingredients companies, also for all kinds of tech companies that are building platforms. We are seeing now a push towards enabling technology because we see that scaling it up is only possible if the infrastructure is there. So we'll probably see more of that, companies that provide the bioreactors, the platforms, maybe even the AI, all the things that are needed to make small scale solutions actually widely available so it can be launched on the mass market in the future. And the startups, and as are we as ProVeg, are open to collaboration and to all kinds of looking for synergies and to strategic and practical partnerships. So please reach out if you are interested.
Excellent. Great. Oh, awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Albrecht. This was an interesting talk. I got to learn a lot more about ProVeg Incubator, about ProVeg as an organization, and how you collaborate with the Good Food Institute and other collaborations and things. So thank you so much for your time and for taking the time to speak to all our viewers and everything. So that's it. I'm Roberto Guerra of Singular Foods, and I would like to thank you again. So I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever or wherever you see this from, or whatever time. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Roberto. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.